So I was presented a drawing from my daughter of myself appearing to fly. Ostensibly, this drawing was for Mother's Day, but the only text on it were the words "Wonder Mom" across the top. For as long as she could remember, it had been myself, her, and a dog. Occasionally, I would date, and she'd tell me that I was cooler when I didn't. And her father and I had been friends in high school. We met after college and were together for 13 years before we finally recognized that we did better as friends than partners. And so we began co-parenting. And it was going as well as those things go. We had our ups and downs, but we were doing well when he started getting serious with another woman. She took me to lunch one day to let me know how much she admired our co-parenting and how she would never get in the way of our parenting decisions. And then they got married. And boy, does she have a lot to say about how we co-parent. And so, needless to say, after a few months of interjections, things got stressful. And ultimately, I received a text one day, a group chat text from her saying that our relationship, myself and my ex-husband, our relationship would be better if we just didn't communicate. On top of this, I had recently lost the dog that I'd had for 12 years. My 5:30 a.m. alarm clock, my running buddy, my creek explorer child protector, my general all-purpose Velcro pity plot hound who selfishly died from a massive cancer behind his chest. So needless to say, the timing of that text, I didn't take it well. It was a perfect storm. I felt betrayed and angry. I'd lost a 20-year friendship via text. I felt rudderless. And what was going to happen with our daughter? So as it shook out, I ended up taking on most of the emotional, physical, and financial labor of the child raising, and had no, what's it called, the money, the child support. No child support. And when I asked him about college savings, he said, just trust me. So our divorce that ended with a very communicative, very simple divorce papers was now no communication other than emails for reimbursement for a school event or sports thing. And we would, he sends a text to pick up my daughter to her, to go out to his car, and when I pick her up, I am to text her, excuse me, for her to come to my car. And it's what it is. And it's been years of being angry, and there's been some complications and frustrations, as you can imagine, and I spent a lot of time complaining and working things out with therapy, and finally got to a point where I said, well, you know what? This is the way it is. I can do this. I'm letting it go. I'm going to let it go. Everything will be fine. I am Wonder Mom. I can handle this. And so I did. And things seemed to be going very well. We got to a point that we decided to adopt another dog because I needed to fill the dog void. And I wanted a Malinois shepherd type dog, preferably a puppy that I could raise and work with and develop into a search and rescue partner, a loyal companion who would be a useful dog. What we found was a dog that my daughter fell in love with upon sight. A 4-year-old retriever, Pyrenees. Who doesn't retrieve? And when we go on walks, he takes breaks in the first block. And I'd learn he has a water phobia. So the day I learned he had a water phobia, I took him to Barkin Springs. And I said, "Here's the water, this will be great." He said, "I don't think so, not so much." So for 45 minutes, I sat with that dog, and I patiently coaxed him into the water. And he patiently said, I don't think so. And finally, he was up to his belly, and he looked so anxious. This poor puppy was petrified, and all he wanted to do was please, but he couldn't do it, and I couldn't do it. And I said, "That's fine, you don't swim." And I released him from the water, and he jumped in circles of joy, and he headed straight for the truck. And I said, well, at least that's something. And so I got home, and I was barely holding it together. And so my daughter was gone for the weekend, and I proceeded on the best route of self-care that I knew at that point. And I poured a very hot bath, and I poured a very strong drink. The half-empty can of seltzer that was on my counter went into a glass, and the last of the shards of the ice that I'd bought 2 weeks ago went into the glass, and a couple glugs of gin into the glass and into my face. And I went into the very, very hot bath that let me know I was alive. And those hot baths, the combination of the water and the heat, was a ritual of centering that I'd done so long that I didn't remember where it began. And as I sat in that bath that night, tears started coming out. And my dog's water phobia was the last thing that was holding me, that tore me apart. And I was so angry, and I started sobbing. And I was screaming, and I screamed that I hated my kid's father, and I took my shampoo and I threw it across the bathroom, and I hated my broken dog, and I threw the conditioner across the bathroom, and I hated that I couldn't invite my daughter's father to her 13th birthday on her request, and I threw it across the razor blade across the bathroom, and I hated everything, but mostly I hated the fact that I had to always hold it together when I was breaking apart inside. And I finally made it out of that bath, and I fell asleep in a residue of my own tears and my heartache. And I slept hard. And I woke up the next morning, and my dog was asleep at the foot of my bed, much like a rug. And there was a text from my daughter. "Mama, Thomas is gluten-free. Can we make 2 cakes for my birthday?" Because parenting never ends. And I woke up, and something felt a little different. And my heart told me that I could either continue to shove these emotions deep inside, or I could give myself a little compassion. And I chose compassion. And I started recognizing that I didn't have to do everything. I could say no, and I could ask for help. And so I began doing that. And I got a life coach, and I stopped drinking, and I started submitting my writing. And things started to become a little bit lighter. And that birthday cake, oh, we made the hell out of those birthday cakes. There were 2, one gluten-free, one high octane, lemon poppy seed with lavender cream icing. The gluten-free was more of a cookie. And we were packing up the truck, and the dog snatched the cookie off the counter and was lapping his jowls when we came in. And I just had to laugh at the absurdity of it all. And her friend ate piñata candy, and everything was okay. And in the end of that, it helped me to recognize that the greatest superpower this Wonder Mom has is to relax and recognize that we actually have very little control of the world that we live in. Thank you.